Stockholm Syndrome, that thing all Christians deny exists because Christians are closely associated with Nazis, and Stockholm Syndrome came out during the Holocaust, when psychologists observe behaviors they didn't quite understand. I'm about to explain to you why Christians and why the DSM doesn't recognize Stockholm Syndrome, and it's because specifically Christians absolutely hate the idea of Stockholm Syndrome, and you're about to learn why. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological coping mechanism where a captive or abuse victim develops positive feelings or loyalty or even empathy for their captors and abusers, often as a survival tactic in prolonged traumatic situations like kidnappings, domestic violence, or cults. Yes, if you're in a cult and you feel a fierce sense of loyalty to the cult, you have Stockholm Syndrome. Key features including positive emotions toward the abuser, distrust of authorities, and seeing the abuser as human, stemming from an emotional bond formed under extreme stress and dependency, though it is considered rare and isn't officially a DSM diagnosis. It's not a DSM diagnosis because this church actually puts a lot of money into saying Stockholm Syndrome doesn't exist. And it's because it hurts their malignant narcissist feelings. And we're going to start off with a local favorite version of Stockholm Syndrome of mine. Which is Futurama's Kif. Yes, a cartoon character. There is an episode of Futurama, I forget what it's called, but in this episode, Kif gets separated from Zap Brannigan. And Zap Brannigan is a narcissist. He fits every criteria for a narcissist. Not a malignant narcissist, but a narcissist. He's emotionally stunted, and he's incredibly self-absorbed and self-aggrandizing. And he behaves like a child. Kif is a narcissistic abuse victim, and in this episode, all he does is go on about Zap Brannigan everywhere he goes. He doesn't shut up about Zap Brannigan everywhere he goes. And part of this is learned helplessness because he is Zap Brannigan's second in command. And Zap constantly, through constant abuse, and you might go, how the fuck is Zap abusive? If you've ever known a really stupid person like my idiot friend Josh, they are abusive. Stupid people can be extremely abusive, okay? And that is what Kif suffers from in Futurama. The reason he goes on and on about Zap Brannigan is because he has a form of Stockholm Syndrome. Probably not like the standard form of Stockholm Syndrome like we see, but because it's become routine for him, he has Stockholm Syndrome. And I think toward the end of the episode, he ends up going back with Zap and is like, hey, somebody free me or whatever. But at the same time later, he's just shown going about his job because that's Stockholm Syndrome. Like I said, there's a form of stress. Obviously, he's constantly stressed from dealing with a stupid person, but there's also dependency in it because it's also his job. That's why he's dependent on working with Zap Brannigan. There is another show called Hercules, The Legendary Journeys with Kevin Sorbo. Interesting guy, bad everything. But they free a slave, and the slave still wants to call Hercules master. The slave still wants to be a slave because that is the slave's survival tactics. That is a form of Stockholm Syndrome. If you are constantly abusing somebody, and then they turn to, well, I like the abuse, and I like being a slave, that is because they are so hopeless that they have come to the reality that this is the way things have to be. The other side of that is in the episode, it is revealed that guy has known no other form of life. So he knows to be a slave. That is what he do. And all through the episode, being a free man, because Hercules freed him, he hilariously looks for a new master. Somebody to boss him around and underpay him. And that is abuse, and he seeks that out because that's what he knows. People and familiarity is a bitch, okay? because people will go with something that is just familiar, even if it's killing them, because it is the devil you know versus the devil you don't. The devil you don't know might be the nicest person on the planet. The devil you know what it's going to do, you know how it's going to act, and you know the eggshells to step on to avoid those things from happening. That is why people stay with these things. So now we're going to get into the dark side of Stockholm Syndrome, because I have used a series of cartoon and characters to explain it. So, after I reported this church as a human trafficking ring, believe it or not, there was a total of 4 different women. And I actually can follow them on social media today. And yes, they are still abused by their husbands. Their husbands, however, when I spoke to them, didn't believe in Stockholm Syndrome and didn't believe that they were abusive in any form. So, we're going to talk about big boobies. Big boobies was funny as shit, because when I first reported the church, I got a call from her because the FBI found out I was a fan of hers on YouTube. I used to tune in and watch her videos. Big Boobies contacted me and basically was like, "You're dead. You're dead. When my husband gets out of prison, he's gonna kill you. He's gonna murder you. Yeah, you're dead." Ha 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 ha! And she was thrilled to death that that guy was gonna kill me. I think a week later, after these guys kept following me around town, threatening me and poisoning my shit with heavy metals, she called back because she was in a psychological program for recovery. Yeah. And she was like, "I'm so sorry about the first call, but the church murders anybody, and everything's under the threat of death. And you got to learn basically how to be happy while living under the constant stress." And remember what I said: the relationships are under stress. Okay, you have to live under constant stress, and you become kind of codependent because of the guy's wealth. Think about that one part in Mad Max where the one wife is running back saying that the Immortal Joe gave her the good life. She's codependent. That's the only way she knows how to get money, is by getting it from Immortal Joe. Or wealth, or whatever they have in the post-apocalyptic future. This same thing happened with this woman, where she was constantly trying to explain to me that her husband's power and all of that stuff is all super attractive to her, but also she was constantly abused. The power and stuff is nice. How come we can't just have that without the bad things? Because there's consequences for everything. That's why. So we have a back and forth, and I go, "You have Stockholm Syndrome," and she goes, No, definitely not. The church assured me Stockholm Syndrome's not real. Now, there are these cinema guys that stole my idea for a show, and this is my thing about them stealing my thing. It's an egregious misuse, because they're like, "Oh, Stockholm Syndrome doesn't exist. It's not in the DSM." What they don't tell you is their own church campaign to make sure it's not in the DSM. Because they do not want women reading this and going... And this is the thing. This lady and the 4 other people had the same thing in common. My husband can murder people, kill them. He murders women and eats their brain. These people are called the Memifists. The church does not consider them human beings. The women are absolutely horrified of this and terrified of it. That, once again, is Stockholm Syndrome. So they go, "I have to be a good wife, I have to love my husband, and I certainly have to laugh at his jokes and tell him he's the greatest in the world, because if he ever figures out that I think he's a fucking monster, he'll murder my ass." And yes, Big Boobies did express this to me, explaining that she had apparently even seen this guy kill and eat a Memphis, like he killed this girl and cut her head open and ate her brains in front of her, so she was traumatized from it. Controlled through trauma. And once again, I do have serious beef with the cinema guys, because don't go around telling people Stockholm Syndrome doesn't exist unless you're also going to explain that your church is very against Stockholm Syndrome, because your malignant narcissist church leaders don't want to be told their wives don't actually love them. They don't actually care about them. They're fucking terrified of them, and they'll do anything and tell them anything they want to hear, just as long as it involves them not murdering. And this happened with Big Boobies, by the way. we had a back and forth where she was explaining to me adamantly the church is a genius on psychology. They're a genius on fear. They're not geniuses on psychology. And that they determined through all their hard work that Stockholm Syndrome doesn't exist. It is impossible to just abuse somebody and continuously rape and hurt them, and then when they bend to your will and they do what you want because it is in their best interest not to be abused anymore, that means that person has Stockholm Syndrome. Instead, they were like, no, you see what's going on is you're accepting that I'm right. Okay, because I'm a monster, because I'm a piece of shit, because I have no values, because I can kill anybody I want, because I have no agency in my life, and there's no consequences for my actions, because the church makes sure there is no consequences for my actions. They remove all agency from me, therefore I'm the victim in everything. And this even came into the big boobies trying to explain to me at one point that her husband has to do those things. He wouldn't do those things if he didn't have to. And then I was like, does he tell you that? Or is he like Stu? Where Stu openly admitted he loves the killing. He loves the murdering. He likes doing these things. But he likes using the church as an excuse to say that he's the victim in it. Because he knows if he just tells people, I like doing this, they're not going to like him very much. Witchy Poo's another example of Stockholm Syndrome. Doing whatever Stu wants, telling him whatever he wants to hear, to avoid getting murdered. It is not love if you've ever told your wife, do what I say or I'll kill you, or if your cult gives you a wife, and then you're like, oh boy, I got a wife, this is amazing, and then you go, I'm sorry, my violent, stupid cult kidnapped you, put you into human trafficking, and then gave you to me, but you need to understand, because of my stupid fucking cult that I joined, I'm an incel because I drank tetraled, and now I'm neurotic and weird, and I couldn't get a woman of my own, and I hate all women, because I can't connect with them in a sympathetic or empathetic way, because I'm a lead brain. And now they all avoid me because I'm a piece of shit. But it's okay because now you're my wife and the church got you under the threat of death and that means you love me. To these people, love is Stockholm Syndrome. And I'm going to read it again real quick. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological coping mechanism where a captive or abused victim develops positive feelings, loyalty, or even empathy for the captors or abusers, often as a survival tactic in prolonged traumatic situations like kidnapping, domestic violence, or cults. Key features include positive emotions toward the abuser, distrust of authority, seeing the abuser as human, stemming from an emotional bond formed under extreme stress and dependency, though it is considered rare and isn't officially in the DSM. Once again, this church campaign to make sure that's what happens. The cinema guys aren't going to tell you that, though, because they're a part of the church that made that happen. It's called covering it up. They don't like the idea that the only way they get women is under the threat of death, and they're all Stockholm Syndrome. They all have Stockholm Syndrome. The development of positive feelings. Narcissists play the victim. Stu will tell you he's the victim and he has to eat Memphis brains or he has to kill people. He's the victim in it. And then you go, oh, poor baby. And yes, Big Boobies had this in spades. She was constantly worried about her malignant narcissist guy who was in prison. She was terrified he was going to get out of prison and murder her. She was terrified of all these things. And was like, oh, I want to get back with him. No, she didn't want to get back with him. She wanted to preserve herself because she was that scared of him. Good old Big Boobies. Developing empathy for the captor. Once again, malignant narcissist will convince you they're the victim and everything. I do not let my dad play the victim whenever he tries to play the victim. And whenever I dealt with these church leaders, the fastest way to get through their bullshit is to not let them play the victim in it. It's to give them agency and accountability, and they just seem to seize up and shut down because they don't really seem to have a response. When their bullshit doesn't work, it's almost as if you're saying, I know, and I see you, and I know what you're doing. And they go, oh, shit. If you are under the constant threat of death, you are under constant extreme stress. If you are a lady that's like, this church will murder you, congratulations, you're under extreme stress and you're trapped in the amygdala. When I helped Carmen at Wendy's by giving her the FBI number to contact on her husband, and they arrested him. She started calling me and telling me he's getting really fat. He's just sitting around eating ice cream and being depressed, and he can't seem to get over like them getting separated. And then she was explaining to me it's her dumbass stupid religion. They're supposed to be married eternally, and she's breaking her vows now, and blah 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 blah. That's all Stockholm syndrome. The guy was abusing you. And you're sitting here going, oh, these positive feelings. I feel bad for him. He's such a human being. He's the victim in it. His violent, stupid religion. Tell him to get out of his violent, stupid religion, or tell him to get rid of his violent, stupid religion. When I tell you any one of these church leaders can destroy their own religion, they have that power. Okay? That's not a joke. If I was one of the church leaders, I would just go out and brain some famous person and say that, this was an act of terrorism done by the church. I know that. I'm a stupid fucking church leader. And then the church would lose its tax-exempt status. The reason why they don't do this is because they like the power the church gives them. And I would even argue some of the church leaders, because they are under the threat of death, have Stockholm syndrome. And this is another reason why the church is so avidly against Stockholm syndrome, because they don't want people thinking that because they're under the threat of death. And look, you want to hear another example of Stockholm syndrome? I've been talking about women. I've been talking about big boobies. I sound very misogynistic in this. The blue-eyed guy. Yes, the blue-eyed guy is a prime example of somebody with Stockholm syndrome. And you might go, Bobby, how the fuck is the blue-eyed guy? Remember the conversation we had where he was like, oh yeah, Bobby, you know what I have that you don't have? Integrity. Yes, he has integrity to a human trafficking ring that murders the Memphis women and eats their brains and kills women and fucking does all these horrible things and rapes babies. But he has integrity because he follows those rules of the violent, stupid thing he defends. That is Stockholm syndrome, and I guarantee you there is I swear fealty, and now I'm under the threat of death. And what does that mean? He is under stress, and he probably has some kind of dependency on the cult. He has a formal dependency where he cannot fucking get out of there for whatever fucking reason, probably pays his bills. But at the end of the day, he too, as a man, has Stockholm syndrome. And you might go, wait a minute, Bobby. Distrust in authorities, isn't that what you have? I have a form of Stockholm syndrome. When I was a kid, I was constantly abused, so I became accustomed to the abuse. It became a 9-to-5 job for me. And we're going to talk about this. Yes, even a job can give you Stockholm syndrome. Have you ever met somebody who just works in a specific category when there are other jobs available where they can make more money, and you meet these people, they're highly skilled, they're highly intelligent, and they're wasting their life at a job they don't like, and they're miserable, and they go to this job they hate every day. They too have Stockholm syndrome. It is a form of Stockholm syndrome. And I myself, the reason why I have learned to just keep getting punched in the face, beaten and assaulted again and again and again is because I have Stockholm syndrome. That is the way I have learned to live my life, because it is the only thing that has ever worked. I want to give an example of this. Stu starts punching me in the face. I kill him. What happens? A bunch of assholes from the church comes to kill me. That is Stockholm syndrome. Okay. It would probably be in my best interest, honestly, to just go and shoot Stu in the head in front of everybody in his church and then go, how do you like that? Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Yeah! And then have them all come and kill me just to drive home, just to retake my power and my freedom before the last moments of these bastards killing me, because the only thing they want to do, and the only thing they know how to do, is defend the human trafficking ring at all costs and get everybody around them killed, lose their families, lose their sanity, lose their humanity, and then blame everybody else. And then when a good person comes along to do the right thing, they start knifing them in the back and screaming some shit about how their church is the good thing, even though all it is a massive human trafficking ring. Thank you.